Hello. Good afternoon, dear students. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Yes, sir.
So today, the purpose of today class is to revise the first unit. So in first unit, we are going to revise about the theory portion of the aircraft engines, and parallelly we will be discussing some derivation part of turbojet and turboprop, particularly because ramjet and scramjet is not the part of your syllabus. So we will be focusing basically on turbojet and turboprop. So in CIA also you might have seen that most of the numerical problems were asked from turbojet and turboprop. Here also we will be giving more emphasis on these two topics. Parallelly, we will be covering theory of afterburner as well as some portion of combustion chamber. So already this PPT previously also I shared with you. So I'm starting from the same PPT here. At the end of the presentation, you may ask some questions if you are having any doubt. So I am starting now. So today content is basically basic definitions. We will be seeing what is a turbojet, what is the working principle. Then we'll have a brief summary of the history of the turbojet engines, followed by the full detailed descriptions starting from the piston engine up to the modern turbojet and turbofan engines. Later on, we will see the afterburning, then thrust vectoring. Then we will see the advanced propulsion engine like turbojet, ramjet, and scramjet. These three engines will be covering only theory portion of it and working principle. So, if we look at the aerospace propulsion, that can be broadly subdivided into two categories. One is called air-breathing engines, another is called non-air-breathing engines. As definition says that air-breathing engines are the engines which utilizes the air for the burning of the fuel to produce high velocity jet of stream in order to get the thrust. But in the case of non-air breathing engines, as definition by the name itself, we can say they are not going to breathe any air from outside. So we'll have to store the oxidizer and fuel within the container itself. So if we simply compare based on the terminologies used, air breathing engines as they are dependent on the outside air properties. So outside air properties will have a direct impact over the performance of the vehicle in the case of air breathing engines. But in the case of non-air breathing engines, as these vehicles do not depend on the atmospheric properties at all. So their performance are independent of the atmospheric properties. So by changing the parameters, pressure and temperature, we cannot change the performance of non-air breathing engines. In your aerospace propulsion one, as we are broadly studying only about the air breathing engines, so let's start with the first engine that we were using before World War II. At that time, all the aircraft engines were used based on the piston engine, that is reciprocating kind of piston engine arrangement. Later on, after World War II, we entered into the era of gas turbine engines, followed by the ramjet engines. So, what are the gas turbine engines basically? So, gas turbine by name itself, we can say the engine which utilize the high velocity stream of gas to produce the thrust is known as gas turbine engine. So these are particularly divided into three broad categories: turbojet, turbofan, and turboprop, based on the way in which they are producing the thrust. Like when we are talking about the turbojet engine, they produce the thrust directly at the action of the hot gases. So as the momentum received from the hot gases get converted into the thrust in the case of turbojet engine. But in turbofan engine, we are having additional thrust generated from the cold stream. In turbojet engine, we are producing only from the hot stream, but in the case of turbofan engine, we are producing major portion of the thrust from the hot stream with additional thrust from the cold stream via expansion through the fan. But in turboprop engine, most of the thrust will be generated via the propeller. That's why we say the rating of turboprop usually we give in the terms of horsepower, not in terms of Newton. In turbojet and turbofan engine, we always give rating of the engines in terms of Newton, but in turboprop engine, we give the rating of the engine in terms of horsepower, because here we generate the thrust via the rotation of shaft to which your propeller is attached. So the rating will be either horsepower or brake power, we used to say. So this is the broadly the particular difference between air breathing engine and non-air breathing engines. As I said that air breathing engines depend on the atmospheric conditions, so there is an altitude limitation in the operation condition of the air breathing engines, so altitude is limited. But in the case of non-air breathing engine, no altitude limitations. That's why we prefer these kind of engines for space exploration. Second point in the air breathing engines is that thrust decreases with altitude. As we all know, as we go high, our pressure decreases, temperature also decreases. When both of these two parameters are decreasing, it will have direct impact over the density. And hence we can say the mass flow rate of air which is coming inside the engine will get on decreasing. So a moment will not have sufficient mass of air, so the thrust generated will be less. So overall efficiency will be drastically decreasing at a higher altitude. That's why altitude limitation comes into the picture. So thrust decreases with altitude in the case of air breathing engines, but in the case of non-air breathing engines, and it does not depend on the outside properties of the atmosphere, so thrust increases or improves slightly with altitude. Why this sentence is written, it slightly increases, because as altitude increases, outside air temperature will be less, so we can generate or we can create high temperature gases by the chemical reaction of oxidizer and propellant within the container. So it can give slightly better thrust compared to the air breathing engines at higher altitude. Third point in air breathing engines is that flight speed is always less than the jet speed. And in the case of non-air breathing engines, flight speed is not limited, can be greater than the jet speed. Last point again is directly related to the altitude, high efficiency and reasonable flight duration in the case of air breathing engines. But in non-air breathing engines, they operate only for small duration with low efficiency compared to the air breathing engines. So these are the broad differences between air breathing engine and non-air breathing engines. So the first engine that we were using before the World War II was the piston engine. So if we look at the schematic diagram of a piston engine, broadly we can find out the main parts of it. So if we look at the top of the cylinder, right, top of the cylinder will have that portion is known as cylinder head. So cylinder head will be accompanying basically three important components. One is called inlet valve, second one is exhaust valve, and a spark plug. So all these three components will be situated on the cylinder head, followed by the main cylinder, in which we'll have a crankshaft which will be surrounded by the crankcase, and the crankshaft will be connected with the piston with the help of connecting rod, and piston will be reciprocating within this cylinder boundary between two fixed points. One is called top dead center, another is called bottom dead center. The distance between top dead center and bottom dead center is known as a stroke length. And overall, if we look at the cylinder cross section, we look up from the top, it will be looking like a cylindrical one. So it will have a bore also. So bore is nothing but diameter of this cylinder. So these are the two important parameters when we are designing these cylinder. Cylinder will be designated by this bore and stroke. Once this is fixed, we can design the cylinder and corresponding cylinder head geometry. As we are seeing here, inlet valve and exhaust valve, this kind of configuration is basically known as petrol based engine. We are using petrol. In this case, we will use the inlet valve and exhaust valve. If we are going for diesel engine configuration, right, where we will not be using inlet valve and exhaust valve, because there we need to compress the air alone. But in this case of petrol engine, we are compressing the mixture of air and fuel. Fuel is petrol, so we'll have to compress both. And there is a limitation on compression in the petrol engine, as we studied from the standard cycle. Auto cycle says that there is a limitation on compression ratio. That compression ratio maximum possible is 8, and it will give the optimum performance if your compression ratio is in the range between 6 and 8. If we are going beyond that, then pre-ignition and detonation problems will occur within the cylinder. So we do not prefer that. Because of that, as we cannot use high compression ratio, so the temperature generated within the cylinder when we are compressing it will not be sufficient to ignite the fuel. So to ignite the fuel mixture, in the case of petrol engine, we use the spark plug. But in the case of diesel engine, as we are compressing only air here in the cylinder, so we can utilize higher compression ratio beyond that range. So we can employ around 20 or 22 compression ratio in the case of diesel engine, because we are compressing only air. So when air temperature reaches at very high temperature after the compression, we simply inject the fuel. The moment fuel comes into contact with the air within the cylinder, it start burning and combustion happens, and we generate the power. So it's a very simple working principle of piston engine. So these are the different configuration of piston engines which were used earlier. The first, that is the left top corner, is the inline engine arrangement, where cylinders are arranged in line. This kind of configuration we are using particularly in the trucks engine, where we are using multi-cylinders. So inline engines are used there. Second configuration at the left bottom corner, that is called horizontally opposed, where pistons are horizontally opposed to each other. So both the connecting rod of those pistons are connected to the single crankshaft where we are generating the power. The top right corner is V type of engine, where pistons are arranged in the shape of V, and the top bottom corner is a radial engine. This kind of where we can arrange all the pistons around the circumference of a circle. So from the pictorial view, we are seeing that these are total 9-cylinder radial engine. Earlier piston engines, we have used this kind of configuration for the aircraft operation. Particularly, we preferred only radial engine because overall geometry we look at is uniform. In this case, if we use the inline, in that case overall geometry will be, means overall cross-sectional area will be more, which is not desirable in the aircraft. So this is the famous aircraft which were used before World War II. This Antonov AN-2. If we look at the configuration of engine, it is a piston engine, radial type. It was having 9-cylinder, which can generate 100 horsepower total thrust power. If we look at the propeller is having 4 blades, variable pitch. Performance, maximum operating speed is around 300 km/h. That is nothing but 139 knots. Maximum height up to which it can operate is 30,000 feet. So there was, as already I said, piston engine, there is a problem of altitude limitation, but they are very good for low speed and low altitude application, or we can say for sports activities, sports aircraft, usually we prefer the piston engine configuration. So these are the relative advantages and disadvantages of the propeller piston engine aircraft. First is, they are very efficient for low speed flights. Lower load capacity, when we are talking about load capacity compared to the modern turbojet engines, compared to those, they are having lower load capacities. Third, they consumes less fuel compared to the turbojet engine. Like if we use turbojet engine for the sports activities, sports aircraft will not be economical. So so we prefer the piston engine configuration for sports aircraft or sailplane aircrafts. If we look at the operation is quite It will not be too much noisy like in turbojet engine. It's a noise problem, noise pollution is more, quiet, but fly at lower speed. The best, that's why it is option is given. The best option for people who need to transport a few passengers or small amounts of cargo. We prefer the propeller piston engine aircraft. There's altitude limitation and speed limitation. Why altitude limitation? When we go at a very high speed, high altitude, there used to be separation of the flow at the tip of the propeller at a high altitude, particularly because density will be less, due to which sufficient amount of air will not be entering into the engine. So overall efficiency of the engine is decreased. But they can be turbocharged, but highest limit for the piston engine is only 13,000 feet altitude up to which you can fly. Then turbojet engine technology came after World War II, and now we are having so many sophisticated configuration of turbojet engine. So if we look at the pictorial view of turbojet engine, overall geometry, if we look at the overall diameter of the engine, remains almost constant throughout. So more streamlining of the engine is possible in the case of turbojet engine. So turbojet engine basically will have 5 important parts. It will have a closer look. One is called intake, which will allow the sufficient mass of air entering at low pressure loss, followed by the compression. So compressor in turbojet engines, we are using two kind of compressors, centrifugal compressor also we are using, and as well as axial flow compressor. But for high power or high performance aircraft, we prefer the axial flow compressor, because in axial flow compressor we can generate very high pressure ratio at lower power requirement compared to the centrifugal compressor. So second part or second component of the aircraft engine is compressor, followed by the combustion chamber, then turbine, then rest part is nozzle. In turbojet engine, as full thrust generated depends on the nozzle configuration, right? So nozzle is very crucial part of the turbojet engine. So if we look at the history of the aircraft propulsion, in 1931, the first turbojet engine was designed by Sir Frank Whittle. So Sir Frank Whittle is known as the father of the turbojet technology. Particularly, he proposed the theoretical the background of the turbojet engine, followed by when development started in 1939, the first jet aircraft known as Heinkel HE-178 was developed in England and Germany. In 1943, the first jet fighter aircraft, Messerschmitt Me 262, went into service in German Luftwaffe. So this is the image which is of the engine which was developed by the Pratt and Whitney used in J-58 turbojet aircraft. So in 1944, after World War II, and today we are seeing that most of the aircrafts are using these jet engines. They are also known as gas turbine engines. Various types of configurations are available, which can be classified as turbojet, turboprop, turboshaft, turbofan, ramjet, scramjet. So these are the breakthrough aircrafts, right? Messerschmitt Me 262 is the first operational jet-powered aircraft, and German B-1 bomber with a pulse jet configuration engine. This was the first military application that were done by the Germans. Then Bell P-59 is the first American aircraft, and MiG-15 is the first Soviet jet aircraft. Both of these aircraft were developed in the early 1950s. So turbojets are the oldest kind of general purpose jet engines. They accompany all rotary component, right? That's why we used to say turbojets are the rotary engines that extract energy from the flow of combustion gases and convert that into the thrust. They work on the Newton's third law of motion. So primary component of the aircraft engine, as already said, these are the five important components of the aircraft engine: air intake, compressor, combustor, or we say combustion chamber, turbine, and nozzle. So when we talk about the air intake, the purpose of air intake is to bring large amount of surrounding air at lower pressure loss. So if we look at the view of the intake, they will be like tube shaped or cylindrical or conical intakes. In the fighter aircraft, we used to see the conical kind of intake. In all passenger aircrafts, we can see cylindrical type of intake. They may be of different kind. The main idea of intake design is to minimize the pressure loss when air is entering into the engine. Second part is compressor. Compressor is the heart of the aircraft engine. So we have seen two kind of compressor: centrifugal compressor and axial flow compressor. If we look at the centrifugal compressors are rotating compressor in which working fluid flows perpendicular to the axis of rotation. So it enters axially and comes out radially at a 90-degree to the axis of rotation. So centrifugal compressor, if we look at the image, it will have a shaft. Over the shaft, we will have a impeller. On impeller, we will have a blade. So we have seen there are three kind of blades. Basically, we are using backward curve blade, forward curve blade, and radial blades. So we compare all these three. Radial blades are more efficient compared to other two kinds. On most of the applications, we are using the radial type of blades on the impeller. When impeller rotates, it converts kinetic energy into the pressure energy, right, into the volute casing, and finally discharges at 90-degree to the axis of rotation. Second configuration of the compressor is axial flow compressor. The problem with the centrifugal compressor was multi-staging was not possible. Maximum we can go up to 3 stages of multi-staging in the case of centrifugal compressor, and per stage pressure rise in centrifugal compressor was around 6:1. So when you are going for multi-staging, overall geometry of the engine was increasing, over frontal area was more. The more frontal area was leading to the larger drag in the operation of the aircraft, so it was not desirable. So there was another alternate solution proposed, the axial flow compressor, where we can have a number of stages. So if we look at the geometry, it will have a shaft, and a shaft. Over the shaft, your blades will be attached on the hub. So there will be a moving blades, and blades here in the case of axial flow compressors will be of airfoil shape. So one set of moving blade and one set of the stator blade. Stator blades will be attached to the engine casing. So one set of moving blade and one set of stator blade is known as single stage. So there may be more than 10 to 16 stages in an axial flow compressor, and we can generate a pressure ratio up to 16 with lower work input compared to the centrifugal compressor. So as the length of the compressor increases towards the combustion chamber, overall length of the blades keep on decreasing to provide the required amount of compression in the compressor. The next component is combustion chamber. In turbojet, the air and fuel mixture comes into the combustion chamber where bonding occurs approximately at constant pressure. The combustion chamber usually may be in the form of can. There may be more than 4 to 5 cans surrounding the periphery of the engine where burning of the fuel will take place, and high temperature gas is generated from air, enters into the nozzle of the turbine in the next stage. So turbine uses the hot gases leaving the combustor and allow it to expand partially to generate sufficient amount of work which is required to drive the compressor. As turbine blades are subjected to very high temperature, or you can say high adverse temperature environment, so the material that we use to design the turbine blades may be of Inconel or nickel based alloy. So turbine basically what is do, turbine's rotational energy is used to drive the compressor. So turbine will be generating enough amount of work which is required to run the compressor in the case of turbojet engine. So in turbojet, almost 2/3 of all the power generated by the burning fuel is used to run the compressor. So compressor power requirement is more particularly, and that much amount of work need to be extracted from the high temperature gases. The next component is nozzle. The purpose of nozzle to expand the high temperature hot gases at very high velocity through its variable area geometry to generate required amount of thrust. So nozzle may be either variable area nozzle or fixed area nozzles. So based on the requirement, we select our nozzle. It may be CD, conversion, diversion, or maybe only conversion type of nozzles that can be used. Afterburner, this particularly incorporated with the turbojet engine. So afterburner we use particularly when there is a sudden requirement of the thrust, like during takeoff, or all of a sudden if you want to change the attitude of cruise, we can use the afterburner. As we see that because of the material consideration of the turbine, there is a limit of the maximum turbine inlet temperature, which is around 1200 Kelvin to 1400 degree Kelvin. We cannot go beyond that. But in combustion chamber, we are generating very high temperature gases because we cannot control the combustion. So temperature generated may be around 2000 Kelvin. So it has to be reduced to the required 1400 or 1200 degree Kelvin before entering into the turbine entry. So for that we are using the dilution zone, as we have seen in the combustion chamber theory. So we will reduce the temperature to the required limit, then it enters the turbine. So if we look at the air fuel ratio is being used in the combustion chamber, will be around fuel by air ratio. We look at it will be 0.002 kilogram per Newton. So overall fuel by air 0.002. That means there is a sufficient amount of oxygen present still after the combustion chamber. After combustion has been happened, we will have enough amount of oxygen to support further combustion. So immediately after the turbine, we can again do the second combustion to enhance the thermal energy approaching the nozzle. So the portion in which we do this is known as jet pipe, which will have lamp holders and fuel injectors. So the hot gases which are coming from the turbine are getting exposed to the fuel. The moment fuel comes into contact with the hot temperature gases, burning starts. So we can incorporate high temperature in the jet pipe in the range of 2400 degrees C can be generated because there is no rotatory parts available. There is no material consideration in the turbojet. So that 2400 degrees centigrade hot gases enters the turbine and enters the nozzle. So we'll have an enhanced thrust. But problem with this configuration is that overall space fuel consumption will be more if we are operating the afterburner for longer period of time. Overall efficiency of engine will be very poor. So these type of configuration, this type of arrangement should be used for a shorter period of time. And in aircraft, we prefer afterburning operation only in the takeoff and sudden attitude change in the cruising condition. Thrust reverser. Thrust reversal particularly we use in two ways, either to stop the aircraft, so it will be acting like a air brake, right, to reduce the speed of the aircraft while landing. Second important application of thrust reverser is to provide the short takeoff and landing capability to the aircraft. So if we in this if we look at the pictorial view, it will have a bucket kind of structure at the end of the nozzle. So this, when we need thrust reverser, bucket will come and deflect the hot gases at 90 degree to the motion object. So if we are using this configuration in the jet engine, it can give you a momentarily lift from the ground. So it is known as short takeoff. Similarly, short takeoff and landing configuration can be generated with the help of thrust reversal, as well as when we are landing, we can divert the direction of the hot gases, so it will provide a braking effect over the aircraft. So it will be working like a air brake at the time of landing. These are the two main applications of the thrust reverser in the turbojet engine. So working, already we have seen air is drawn in the rotating compressor via the intake and is compressed to high pressure before entering into the combustion chamber. Fuel is mixed with the compressed air and ignited by the flame, and flame is supported by the ADs. So we'll have a fuel injector in the cans which will support the flame inside and will support the combustion. Hot combustible products leaving the combustor expands to the turbine where power is extracted to drive the compressor. The remaining gas stream enters through the nozzle where it expands at a very high velocity. As a result of neutral third law motion, we get the thruster. So rating of the turbojet engine is always in Newton. So if we look at the cycle, we want to analyze this. It works on the Brayton cycle, and Brayton cycle is an air standard cycle which will have four processes, two reversible adiabatic processes, particularly reversible adiabatic compression in the compressor from 1 to 2, and reversible adiabatic expansion in turbine from 3 to 4. Between compressor and turbine will have a combustor in the process 2 to 3 where we do the combustion approximately at constant pressure. So on pressure and volume diagram, if we look at, we'll have a horizontal line for the process 2 to 3 which says that combustion is happening approximately at constant pressure. And finally, exhaust, which is taking place between 4 and 1, which completes the cycle. So we are having two configurations. One is called closed cycle gas turbine and another is called open cycle gas turbine. In aircraft application, we are using the open cycle gas turbine, where point 1 and 4 will not be connected. For the sake of analysis, we simply connect 4.4 and 0.1 by a horizontal line, which represents the heat rejection process in a cycle. So if we look at the ideal cycle for a jet engine, so this was the gas turbine. So gas turbine, as I said, it will have a compressor followed by the combustion chamber followed by the turbine. Then another, if we are talking about the closed cycle configuration, another heat exchanger will be there where heat rejection will take place. If it is an open cycle, there is no heat exchanger. Simply it will exhaust into the atmosphere. But in jet engine, we are generating the thrust. Will have two extra components. One is intake, another is nozzle. So intake will be connected before the compression. So 1 to 2 in the diagram, we should look at 1 to 2 is the intake process, and 2 to 3 is a compression, and 3 to 4 is the combustion chamber, followed by 4 to 5 that is expansion in turbine, and 5 to 6 is the afterburner we are using in some of the turbojet engine. So 5 to 6 in between somewhere will use the afterburner, and 6 to 7 will be the nozzle. So we draw the cycle for this ideal turbojet. We can represent over the temperature entropy as A to 2. Starting A means free stream air outside the intake. To 2, A to 2 is known as intake process. 2 to 3 is reversible adiabatic compression in the compressor, followed by 3 to 4 approximately constant pressure combustion within 3 and 4, and 4 to 5 is the partial expansion of hot gases in the turbine, and 5 to 7, or you can add one more point between 5 and 7, that is 5 and 6. 5 and 6 will be representing the afterburning in the afterburner. If we are not using afterburner, then directly we can go from point 5 to 7. This is known as expansion in the nozzle, where we are generating the thrust, and 7 and 8 simply we are connecting it in order to complete the cycle. So what are the advantages of the turbojet? Basically, we'll compare with the piston engine configuration. As already we said that with piston engine configuration, we are having two limitations: altitude as well as speed, as well as power rating will be less for the piston engines. So it will have a very high power to weight ratio. Overall geometry we look at, it will have a compact geometry compared to the reciprocating engine of the same power rating. It will have fewer moving part, like in piston engine will have reciprocation motion. Reciprocal motion will lead to more vibration issues in the engine. So in turbojet engine we are using the rotary components, like compressor turbine both are rotary, so fewer moving part than reciprocating engine, low operating pressure, and also required shorter landing gears. Right, like in piston prop, if you look at, because of the propeller length, we need longer landing gears. But here, as we are not using any kind of propeller, everything is component within the engine casing, so shorter landing gears can be used. High operational speed, around 800 km/h. Lubrication requirement will be very less. Like a reciprocating engine, we require more lubrication in the piston cylinder, piston rings. Low lubricating oil, cost and consumption. Afterburner can be installed to enhance thrust. These are the main advantages. If we look at the disadvantages, fuel economy at lower speed is very poor. So these are not suitable for low speed operation. They take longer startup than reciprocating engine, less responsible to the changes in power demand compared to the reciprocating engine, and noise is the main problem with the turbojet engine. So it is a noisy compared to the piston engine aircraft. So we look at the cycle and the derivation of a thrust. We can look at the control volume is dotted line. This is showing the control volume. So for our analysis, we have to put the control surface around the engine. So engine will have intake as well as nozzle. So intake is my first point and nozzle is my last point. Within that, I am going to apply the energy equilibrium. So here at a pressure of PA, atmospheric pressure, at a velocity small u, and mass flow rate m dot A enters into the intake, then burning occurs inside the combustion chamber. Mass flow rate of gases and air, that is called mass flow rate of mixture, comes out from the nozzle at the end and generate high velocity z. So due to change in this velocity, we get a momentum, and that momentum gives us a thrust. So thrust is equal to mass flow rate exit, velocity at exit, minus mass flow rate at entry and velocity at entry, plus pressure difference at exit and entry, PE minus PA, into area of that exit. But in the case of jet engine, pressure thrust component will be very less, can be neglected. So major contribution will be change of velocity. So thrust is directly proportional to the change in velocity. Change in velocity, velocity of hot jet minus velocity of air entry. So V minus V naught into mass flow rate will give us thrust. Now question arises, why mass flow rate exit is equal to the mass flow rate entry? Because we have seen that Fuel by air ratio is negligibly small, it is 0.002, so can be neglected. So we can say approximately most of the mass flow rate contribution is due to the air which is entering at the entry. So m dot E is also m dot A or m dot 0. So we can say final expression as thrust is equal to mass flow rate of air and change in velocity. Change in means velocity of jet minus velocity of air entry. This gives us the thrust. So if we look at the properties variation across the length of the turbojet engine, we can derive the property variations across the length. So if we look at the first diagram, that is pressure P in the diffuser purpose is to reduce the velocity. When we are reducing the velocity of the incoming air, which when velocity decreases, pressure increases as per the Bernoulli's principle. So there will be slight change in pressure in the diffuser section or you can intake section. And 2 to 3 is compression, where there will be a dramatic change in pressure. So between 2 and 3, there will be a significant change in pressure. So at high pressure 3, our air enters into the combustion chamber, that is known as burner. So in burner, line will be approximately horizontal. We assume that the combustion is happening at constant pressure. So between 3 and 4, pressure remains almost constant. Then there will be a partial expansion in 4 and 5. The partial decrement in pressure takes place between 4 and 5. Then finally, there will be significant change in pressure between 5 and 6. When pressure is decreasing, velocity will be very, very high compared to the intake velocity. As a result of that, we get the thrust. Similarly, we can plot the temperature variation. In diffuser, there will be a slight change in temperature. Then in compression, there is a further change in temperature. There will be a significant change in temperature occurs in the burner. Then temperature decreases on the way in turbine and nozzle. Third one is a specific volume variation, and last one is a thrust variation. Starting, there will be very negligible amount of thrust. Final thrust will be more. So net thrust is Tf at exit. So thrust vectoring, as I already said, thrust vectoring redirects exhaust gases to create thrust on a vector other than the center line of the aircraft. So thrust vectoring is used in most of the fighter aircrafts. Harrier is the naval aircraft, which is known for the short takeoff and landing. F-22 Raptor, advanced version of fighter aircraft, and joint strike fighters. Thrust vectoring can be used to increase maneuverability or allow a plane to take off and land vertically. For that purpose, we are using the thrust vectoring system. So this is the schematic diagram of thrust vectoring system. The first diagram, as we look at, is a turbofan configuration, right? Turbofan engine with thrust vectoring. And second configuration is the naval aircraft, right, where aircraft is deflecting the hot gases 90 degree to the center line axis of the aircraft. Because of that, it is getting the vertical takeoff from the ground. There's a VTOL aircraft, a naval variation. So types of jet engine. So these are the 6 different kind of configuration of jet engine: turbojet, turboprop, turbofan, turboshaft, pulse jet, and ramjet. So if we look at the turboprop engine, it will be a combination of turbojet plus a propeller. So propeller will have 3 blades or 4 blades based on the power requirement. We can select the number of blades. These propellers may be fixed pitch or variable pitch propeller based on the maneuverability. So if we look at the turboprop configuration, it will have a propeller attachment shaft, and that shaft will be coupled with the main shaft, which is connected to the turbine. In between turbine shaft and the propeller shaft, we will have a gearbox, right, or you can say reduction gearing box, which is required because propeller, because turbine may be operating at very high rotational speed, but propeller will be generating the thrust at only rated speed, which may be around 2500 rpm, but turbine may be operating around 20 to 30,000 rpm. So 20-30,000 rpm will not be useful for us. To bring down the 30,000 rpm to 2,500 rpm, we attach a gear box or reduction gearing box before the propeller, followed by the main turbojet where compressor is coupled with the turbine. So we are using, basically, if you look at here, turbine is designed to generate larger amount of shaft power, particularly shaft power. So turbine is designed to develop the shaft power to run the propeller as well as compression. So in principle, this is very similar to the turbojet engine. The major difference is the turbine design. Turbine is designed to develop shaft power for driving a propeller to provide most of its propulsive thrust. 80% of the thrust is generated by the propeller and 20% will be generated by the core jet thruster. Since the shaft rotation speed of gas turbine engine is very high, reduction gear must be placed to enable the propeller to operate efficiently. So total thrust is the summation of propulsive thrust plus jet thrust. So turboprop equation, total power can be written as thrust power plus jet. So TP is the propeller thrust, Tc is the jet thrust into the velocity. So power available is written as Tp plus Tj into V infinity. So shaft power is the most important, 95%. So shaft power available is efficiency of propeller into shaft power plus Tc into V infinity. Equivalent shaft power, when we are talking about Tc and V infinity will be small, so it can be neglected. That means the thrust generated on the core jet engine will be less in the case of propeller, so can be neglected. So power available is only efficiency of propeller into power of shaft. So equivalent shaft power is given as Ps plus Tj V infinity divided by N. So what are the advantages? It has high thrust at takeoff and better fuel economy. It requires shorter runway because it has a capability of short takeoff and landing. It can operate economically over a wide range of speeds from low speed where our jet engines are not economical, right? As well as at high speed where propeller, piston propeller are not efficient. It is easy to maintain and has a low vibration as compared to the jet engine. Thrust reversal is easily achieved with the propeller blades. Propulsive efficiency within the range of operation is high compared to the turbojet. What are the disadvantages? At high speed, due to shocks and flow separation, the propeller efficiency decreases rapidly. Thereby, a maximum speed limit is there on the engine operation. It requires reduction gearing, that is the main drawback, which results increase in cost, requires space, as well as weight penalty. So higher weight per unit thrust compared to the jet engine. As we are using the propeller, so longer landing gears will be used. If we look at the turbofan engine, the problem with the propeller turboprop configuration was that high altitude, because of the shock formation, flow was getting separated. So that problem was solved by putting the everything inside the engine casing. So that new configuration came as turbofan engine. So instead of a propeller, it will have a fan which will be inside the engine casing or engine cowl. So if we look at the configuration, this is called non-mixed flow turbofan engine. So first portion is turbofan, which is inside the engine casing, followed by the core jet engine. The second part is core jet engine, right, and fan. So it will have a twin spool configuration where we will use two turbines, low pressure and high pressure turbine. So low pressure turbine will be coupled with the compression, high pressure turbine will be coupled with the fan. It will be running the fan. So turbofan engine will have advantages of both turbojet and turboprop. It consists of intake, fan, compressor, combustion chamber, turbine, and nozzle. So air passing through the fan is divided into two streams. One is cold stream, another is called hot stream. The primary stream that we call as hot stream goes to the traditional jet engine, and secondary air, that is called bypass air, which expands into the separate casing. So overall thrust, if we look at in this configuration, is again total thrust is the summation of cold thrust as well as hot thrust. The combination of these two will give the total thrust generated. So two airflow, one core and one bypass. So bypassing will give us two advantages. One is overall thrust will be more compared to the turbojet. Second is it will provide cooling effect around the core jet engine, core turbojet engine. So we can employ higher temperature within the combustion chamber to enhance the overall efficiency of the turbofan engine. So bypass ratio is nothing but the mass flow rate of air, that is the mass flow rate of cold air divided by the mass flow rate of hot air. So high bypass ratio lead to the lower specific fuel consumption, right? Lower specific fuel consumption. So this is the one of the configuration bypass ratio turbofan. This is the mixed flow where core engine is also surrounded by the engine casing. So cold air will be flowing through the gap between the outer casing and inside casing, and finally is mixed. It finally mixes with the hot stream before exiting the nozzle. So this kind of configuration is known as mixed flow. Earlier one was the this is non-mixed flow, unmixed flow turbofan. So this is the again pictorial presentation of turbofan engine, right? Bypass turbofan engine, non-mixed kind. So if we look at the ideal cycle for the turbofan engine, will be again this is non-mixed flow turbofan engine. So 1, 2 is representing the flow through the fan, and from 2 to 3 shows the flow through the compression in compressor. 3, 4 is the combustion, and 4 to 5 is the turbine expansion. From 5 to 7 is expansion through the nozzle, or we can say 5 and 6 can be after burning. So after burning can also incorporated with the turbofan engine configuration. So in modern turbofan engine, we use the very high bypass ratio, maybe the order of 8. Therefore, a large fraction of total thrust is generated by the cold thrust at lower velocity. What are the advantages? Short takeoff at lower speed and small engines are required. Weight per thrust is lower compared to turboprop engine. Propulsion efficiency is high compared to the turbojet engine. Noise problems are significantly reduced compared to the turbojet engine. What are the disadvantages? Frontal area is bigger than the turbojet and turboprop, so drag will be more. SFC is high compared to the turboprop engine. Engine is heavier and more complicated compared to the turbojet engine. These are some examples of the engines that are using the turbofan configuration. Next one is turboshaft. Particularly, we use turboshaft configuration in the helicopters. So it will have advantage of both turboprop and turboshaft engines. Right, it consists of a shaft in place of propeller, compressor, turbine, combustion chamber, nozzle. All the delivered power in the form of shaft power and is used in helicopter and land-based or marine application. Because of high RPM, again there is a disadvantage that we will have to use the reduction gearing to reduce the RPM of the turbine to the required rated RPM of the propeller or means of shaft. So this is the pictorial presentation of Pratt & Whitney Canada PT60 twin turboshaft engine. These are the different kind of helicopter configuration which are using the turboshaft engine in their operation. Next one is pulse jet. This is the very famous design of German V2 bomber, alright, which was used in World War II. So if we look at the cut section, it will have a flame holder, right? Before flame holder, it will be a spring loaded intake through which air enters at very high speed, and it directly exposed to the flame holder where burning will take place almost at constant volume because volume is not going to change, and finally it expands to the tailpipe, right? That we say jet pipe and nozzle to generate the thrust. As it is having a grid kind of intake. So the moment air enters, right, pressure decreases, grid will close, and there will be no entry of the air. After the first expansion of the hot gases, pressure decreases inside, again grid will open. So the mass flow of air enters into the pulses. That's why we used to say this as a pulse jet engine. So it will not have any rotary parts. So overall design is very simpler compared to the turbojet or gas turbine based configurations. Doesn't have ability to produce static thrust, right? So it has to be launched from something. All right. Example is German B-1 bomber used in target aircraft missile, consists of a diffuser, ball grid which contains spring that is closed on their own spring pressure, combustion chamber, spark plug, and tailpipe. When certain pressure drops exist across the valve grid, valve will open, fresh air enters into the combustion chamber, fuel is mixed, combustion starts initiated by the spark plug. Once combustion is started and combustion is assumed to be happening at constant volume, there is a rapid increase in pressure which causes the valve grid to close, and the combustion product surges in rearward and expands to the nozzle at a high velocity jet, and we get the thrust. Then further, due to reduction in pressure, valve grid opens, fresh air enters. So what are the advantages? Simple and cheap for subsonic flight, develops thrust at zero speed. What are the disadvantages? It requires initial velocity or launching device. Maximum operating altitude is limited because of the density consideration. Right, more vibration problems, or because it will not be generating continuously thrust. So more vibration issues, high intensity of noise, which restricts the use of it for pilotless operation. Maximum flight speed is limited, can be considered up to a flight speed of 750 km per hour. So another complication of rotary less component is ramjet. So instead of having that grid, now we are using the spike, right? So front portion, there is a conical spike. We are using this conical spike will compress the air, because if you look at the area of the flow, which is getting decreased, the moment air flow comes in contact with the conical spike, it gets compressed. High compressed air enters into the combustion chamber where flame odors are there, or where fuel will mix with the high compressed air and burning occurs. And high temperature gases passes through the rest of the part and exhaust to the nozzle at a very high speed. So very simple configuration compared to the used for extremely high speed, particularly operational speed is 400 mile per hour. Doesn't contain any moving part. Rotary compressor, turbine valves are not needed. Consists subsonic diffuser, supersonic diffuser, combustor, nozzle. It has been used in SR-71 Blackbird supersonic aircraft. Operation flight speed is between Mach 2 and 4. So what are the advantages? It is very simple. Doesn't have any moving part, cheap, and requires no maintenance. Its performance lies in supersonic speed Mach 2 to 4. Due to its high thrust at high speed, is widely used in high-speed military aircraft and missiles. What are the disadvantages? It must either be launched from the aircraft in flight or given an initial velocity by some auxiliary means, that is the rocket. Operating altitude is limited. More fuel consumption, suitable for nuclear propulsion only. The advanced version of it is scramjet, which is still under research and development. It consists of a supersonic diffuser, supersonic combustion chamber, and nozzle. So if we look at the design of this scramjet, by design itself we are providing the overall shape of the intake in such a way the moment air strike over the intake, it will generate a shock pattern. So it will be continuous shock generation inside the intake, followed by the continuous shock generation inside the combustion chamber. So here combustion will occur at supersonic speed. The problem is flame stabilization. So in a scramjet engine, we are facing problem of sustaining the flame at high supersonic speed. So it requires still for some more research and development before it actually is going to be used in the aircraft. So air enters into the combustion chamber at supersonic speed. Suitable arrangement for flame stabilization, higher efficiency compared to the ramjet. Is very difficult and complex design. So what are the disadvantages? Supersonic combustion cannot be sustained. Practically tested scramjet have only operated for a few seconds. What is the advantage? It is shorter than ramjet engine because of the absence of supersonic diffuser. Because combustion is supersonic, combustion is fast, quick, and complete. Light in weight, as we don't have any rotary component. Maximum thrust is not limited, hence high temperature can be employed. So these are two ramjet and scramjet as the advanced propulsion system. and rest of the 3 we are using the most of the aircraft. So this is the theory related to the different kind of engines used in the aircraft propulsion. So if you are having any query, you can ask, or you can type in a chat that can be answered. Thank you. Hello. Hello. Yes. So if you have any doubts, you can ask now.
No doubt, sir.
No doubt. So thank you for attending the class. So tomorrow I'm going to start the second unit. So basically we will be focusing on centrifugal compression. So we will be discussing about velocity triangles, as well as some new numerical problems will be discussed. Okay, so if you have any doubt in your offline also, you may ask, right? I will be sharing this video shortly with you. Thank you for listening.